What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. Today, we're going to get a special treat. I haven't gotten the opportunity to see The Naked Gun due to other things happening in life, but I'm going to definitely try to get to see it this week for sure. But Brian did see it, and he is going to give us a review. I have questions still because comedy is a specific thing, and it doesn't hit everybody the same way. So I'll have some questions, but he's gonna give us a review of The Naked Gun, as well as another comedy that I haven't seen, Happy Gilmore 2, which I've never been a real big fan of anyway. I've been a fan of some of his stuff, but not a lot of it. So Brian is going to talk about that, as well as an experiment that he thinks Mr. Sandler is attempting to do. Talk to us about The Naked Gun.
Pablo's most anticipated film of the year, The Naked Gun update with Liam Neeson, Pamela Anderson. I think the movie is very funny. I think it's very entertaining. I think it's very concise. I mean, this is 80 minutes. I mean, you are in and out of there. It's old school comedy, right? Like you get in the theater, you get out. What I thought, so it's very enjoyable. I recommend people see it. You know, do you have to see it on the big screen? So we'll get into that because I think that's like the core of the Naked Gun and Happy Gilmore discussion. Because Happy Gilmore, you know, is on Netflix, where Adam Sandler's kind of been living the last decade, and the Naked Gun is in theaters, not large format theaters for obvious reasons, but in theaters, and they're both updates of classics from, you know, kind of the 80s and mid 90s. I think with the Naked Gun, what works is actually that, you know, between Seth MacFarlane and Akiva Schaffer, like people behind this movie, they get the Naked Gun. I think the question is, does today's audience, by and large, get the Naked Gun? Because the Leslie Nielsen comedy is a brand of comedy, right? There's some physicality, there's a lot of silliness, but there's also every delivery is super duper straight and serious, and that's part of what makes it funny, right? They're acting like they're
living in this world of
really
silliness.
mean what they're saying and doing, but like it's so, yeah, you know, as the audience, that's ridiculous, and that's part of what makes it funny. So the question is, like, you don't,
Drax is walking around.
yeah, like you don't see a lot of movies like that anymore. So the question is, does that resonate with today's audiences, and does it resonate with today's audiences below a certain age? So I went to a show, it was sold out, went with my wife, we were both excited to see it. We both were laughing a lot. Our audience, I don't think I saw anyone in that theater that was below 40, but it was full and people were having a good time. So the case for this movie being in the theater is laughing with other people, which you don't have a lot of movies these days where you can go and laugh with other people. I've always said, like, this is kind of why horror works as a low budget, because people like to go in the theater together and be like have that moment of being scared together. And then we've talked about at the height of, you know, superhero mania, you kind of want to go to be able to cheer together and be wearing your gear, and like, so like part of the theater experience is about the camaraderie of the genre you're watching. And comedy's just been really tough to crack, you know, in this age of everyone gets offended the second you open your mouth. So, or just based on how you look or how you walk or how you, well, I guess in the case of Sydney Sweeney, how you dress these days. So, you know, I just think it was kind of cool to be in a theater full of people where people were chuckling, people were laughing, and then you had the occasional, like, people lost it. Like, you could tell, like, people just sort of were like, what is going on right now? Like, kind of thing. So that was cool. So I had a really good time. Am I going to go see it again in the theater? Probably not. I don't think it's a movie that you need to. Like, once you've seen the jokes in the theater, like, if a friend said, I'm dying to go, would you go with me? I would go. Absolutely. But there is something to the effect of, like, when you see some of these jokes the first time with people, that's the most organic, like, laugh out loud. And then you know it's coming the next time. It's funny. I would rewatch it on TV, but I don't know if I would pay, $20 to go. So So I think it's successful. I think it's the choices are unusual. So I mentioned the audience being old. Every member of the cast is old too, right? So Liam Neeson's in his 70s. Pamela Anderson having a career resurgence is 57. Danny Houston is the villain. He is not a spring chicken. And then of course you have some of the nods and some of the people they bring back from before. It's like there's no kids in this movie. So the movie itself is almost saying, we get it. This is a time capsule update. It is meant for people, children of the 80s and children of the 90s. Like that's who we want in the theater. Like if younger people want to check it out, that's great. But we are not putting anything in this movie specifically for you, which I thought was
Hence the
interesting.
connection to the original Naked Guns.
Which that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. What do you think? Like the Naked Gun, I got to be honest, is not really a franchise that I considered until they until they brought this movie forward. Does that make sense? Like, I would say there are other
It was a
comedies.
surprise.
There are other comedies that remain, and actually, I think Happy Gilmore is one of those comedies that remain in the public consciousness because some of it's so quotable, individual things that have carried forward that get used in other ways. I don't think The Naked Gun was in that category. Like that to me was on the shelf. And then they did this, and they did a great job with it. But I don't know what The Naked Gun means to people
It's
today.
that, Brian,
Like,
is that opportunity to laugh together in the theater with people from that era. This is who this movie is made for. Is if it's done well, it's guaranteed money. It's business.
I got you. I don't think it's gonna, but like, if we were contrasted, for example, to your last sort of what seemed outlandish but turned out to be an amazing call, Super Mario Brothers, I continue to point to the games continued. Mario as a character meant something to multiple generations, depending on what video game platform you were introduced to the character. So when they did the movie that really leaned into the nostalgia of the older games, they still had the younger audience who knew all of these characters from Mario Odyssey or Super Smash Brothers, like all that sort of stuff. So this movie doesn't have that, right? There's
Yeah.
no there's been no
It's
carry
very
forward.
specific.
Yeah, that's the thing that's interesting because like I said, I think like there are comedies like I think of there are bits of like The Hangover, for example, that just kind of come up. They have a way of coming up in like random situations, or there's callbacks that are made, or even to go back even older, something as silly as like Bueller you still hear that today, that little line that kind of keeps Ferris Bueller alive. And that's what I mean. Like The Naked Gun to me is like a little more like that era where you had like Hot Shots and stuff like that, where like they were great of the time, like very silly, like you had a great, but like we left those behind. And so that's why I'm interested to see how much this actually does reconnect with people. I had a great time. There are definitely moments in this where I was like, yeah, you guys definitely not only saw The Naked Gun, you studied it and you were like, how do I take that or that spirit and recreate it with like a modern backdrop? And I think they do some stuff that's it's not offensive, it's just off color, but it's hilariously off color. Like that's the way I could describe it. This movie really tries not to offend. Is that if that makes sense? It's trying to find that lane of jokes that like almost everyone can coalesce around. And when it does veer into, there's one hilarious joke about Liam Neeson as a white cop and sort of police brutality, but they do it in a way that like everyone can laugh at, and you don't feel like they're coming down on one side of the aisle. I won't spoil the joke, but he's going and then he ends it. I was like, oh, that's actually really good. So, and then there's a lot of like I said, where the humor is really silly, as you said. It's like they're taking a generic like a generic crime investigation, and then they're introducing these preposterous elements that on the one level make no sense, but they're absolutely hilarious when you see it. And it is nonstop. That's the thing, is like this is not like comedy where you need to set the scene, have some real drama, and then you're going to deliver something along the way to make people laugh. This is like joke, 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 joke. And their hope, they know the hit rate's not going to be 100%. They just want the hit rate to be decent. And they figure with different people, different things might hit, but a few things will hit with everybody.
How much was this movie made for?
$40 million is the budget. I think it will cover that cost based upon what I've seen for the box office. It's not going to be a mega hit. So they're kind of saying US open 15 to 20 million bucks. So overseas will be less than that. So, global, call it 30 maybe. So this thing might do globally, might do like $100 million. So that'll cover cost. I guarantee whenever this hits streamers, though, it will be the number one streamed movie for a while. And I did love, I mean, the 80 minutes, even, and then like with stuff in the credits for you to enjoy, kind of outtakey or additional joke type stuff, it is a real easy watch. And I will say, like, this has been a, like, congrats to the studios for kind of getting that message by and large that we don't want to see 3 hour movies because, we started the summer with Mission Impossible, which is kind of like a 3 hour slog, to be honest. And by the time we got to, Superman, Fantastic Four, like 2 hours each, like How to Train Your Dragon is like just under 2 hours, like F1 is a little over 2 hours, and then this movie's like 80 minutes. Like, that's the way it ought to be. I get it. I'll do the 3 hours for Avatar because I get that, James Cameron always shows me something. Chris Nolan's 3 hour Odyssey. I make time for that. But other than that, we're a 2 hour community here. So
I have been talking about this movie for quite some time. I even surprised Brian with my call.
above Superman and Fantastic Four for his most anticipated movie of the year.
I don't know if I was watching Campia, maybe, but when I heard that Seth MacFarlane had asked Liam Neeson, I think Liam Neeson uh, mentioned it once on the red carpet about him being in a comedy now. He was sort of like, I knew back then when the word Naked Gun was mentioned, I said, this is perfect. This is perfect. It's the total opposite. Still him playing this cop and stuff, but he says it with such seriousness.
That's the key.
You know what I'm saying? That it's funny. He's not acting to be funny. He's just saying lines and delivering them with the same sort of tone that he's delivered other lines. So I knew it was gonna work back then.
So McFarlane made a comment about the seriousness thing, and this is actually, I think, 100% correct. And really the reason why this movie works is McFarlane said this is not a movie where you would take comedians and put them in the roles. He said because part of the humor is you need serious actors who from other genres delivering the lines and playing it so straight that it becomes funny. And he's like, you can't do that if I'm taking an SNL cast member, or Sacha Baron Cohen or somebody that as a comedian, and now like you're already on guard for the funny. And so Neeson absolutely is talking like his character from Taken. Like he is Brian Mills for a lot of this, but like what he's saying is so preposterous that it's and I think the thing they got that I love, the callback to when I think of Leslie Nielsen, not just in Naked Gun, but his whole run of sort of, comedy. Nielsen's characters were always, and especially the one in Police Squad, were always the ones that were, on the one hand, the most obtuse and unaware. But then, of course, they were actually a step ahead in this weird, twisted way. And I think Neeson captures that where he plays things so literally in this movie that it like basically you almost are like questioning whether this is actual acting or whether he's actually riffing and throwing the other actor in the scene off because they'll be like in a give and take, but then he will completely misinterpret what's going on. You'll see the other actor be like, "What the?" And then it's just hilarious because Neeson keeps going like it's on this one track, and that the conversation's over here. So, he has mastered how to do that in a very serious way, but because you've seen him in Taken, because you've seen him in Star Wars, because you've seen him in Rob Roy, that's what you see. It's just that's what you see
No,
saying that, and you're like, "That's funny."
I knew once those two names were attached, I was like, this is perfect. This is perfect.
I will say this, if you want the prequel early seeds of this, it's the A-Team. He does a whiff of this in the A-Team, where A-Team is not a comedy. but it has some lighter
Yeah.
moments, and the way he plays Hannibal relative to the way George Papard played it on the TV show, he doesn't play it totally dramatic. He throws a few things in there which are clearly meant to make you smile if you saw the TV show, and he takes and he blows that up in this movie to, like, every line is that. And then I think the other reason this movie works is because of Pam Anderson, and obviously we now know in real life, this became a real life love story. Like, these 2 are actually together now,
Oh, snap.
and you
Okay.
can
I thought that was just for
so
the
that
theme.
was the initial rumor, but I think this is actually real because 'cause they're both this is one of those, like, when it came out, I had the same reaction you did. Are they putting this on to get this movie over? And then it was like, well, then afterwards, it was kind of like, if you look at their lives, like, this is not like them breaking up. They're not home wrecking. I mean, they're both older. And then it seems like this is something that actually could work. But you see it on screen. You're like, even as this is a comedy and some of the stuff is silly, like, they have good chemistry. And she is leaning into, I think, this mix of kind of pinup doll, not she can't obviously do the Baywatch Pam Anderson anymore, but that idea, like Pam Anderson's sex symbol, still is there's a hint of that in the way they shoot her and dress her and have her enter. But then there's this element of later stage Pam Anderson, which I think has become one of the bigger surprises in Hollywood, which is, she did a musical turn in Chicago, which got a lot of people's attention. Like, what? Pam Anderson can sing? And she does a musical number in this movie, but it's hilarious, and I think it's actually aimed at her Chicago run as being like, "We're gonna make that and kind of mess with that." So if you're familiar with that, you're in on that joke. And then, of course, she was nominated for dramatic acting as well. So there's a little bit of she's playing the drama kinda over the top, but then she has chemistry with Neeson, and it works. It really works, and that's the other reason this movie, like, just keeps going. I think because Neeson is in almost every scene, but to prevent him from overpowering the movie, Anderson provides a lot of the balance, and that it's one of those things where you're like, on paper, that shouldn't work, but then you see it on screen and you're like, this is perfect. It's not so age inappropriate. Like, granted, I think she's 57, he's 73, but they don't look 16 years apart. They look very much like contemporaries because I think from an acting standpoint, they are contemporaries. Like, when did Baywatch come to it's the 90s. When did Liam Neeson first Darkman, Rob Roy, that's the 90s. Like, so they are contemporaries in that sense, and it really worked.
That's dope, man. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna ask you this question. I'm gonna ask you to rank. So I'm gonna give you
Okay.
5 comedies.
Oh, boy. This is gonna be hard for me. Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna give you 5 names that these movies that are just rewatchable that I wish I would have seen in the theaters. And you rank them, and let's see if this movie makes that list. I don't know. So, Police Academy, the first
Okay.
one, Bridesmaids,
Mm,
40-Year-Old Virgin,
okay.
Coming to America.
Oh, you can put that in there. That's fine. Yeah.
So I gave you what, 4, right?
Just can I ask why you picked those 4? Like, why did you leave out you said you're not a Sandler fan, so you left all the Sandlers out. You left
None of
you
because
left Hangover out, but you put Bridesmaids in. Bridesmaid like, like, how did you determine what went into this list and what didn't?
I think when I watch it over and over again, it just makes me laugh.
Okay,
Like I was watching Police Academy and I was crying
okay,
when I was watching it.
okay,
Coming to America, you watch it every 10 years, and it's just a trip down memory lane, and those jokes still hit.
okay, okay.
Uh, Bridesmaids, another one similar in that you when you watch it, it just
But you're
you laugh
saying
every
what
single
would you
time.
most wanna see in the theater again or just see again?
I mean, I didn't see some of these in the
That's what I was
theaters. I never
asking
saw
though,
Coming to
yeah,
America in
okay,
the theaters, Bridesmaids, 40-Year-Old Virgin,
okay,
and Police Academy. I didn't see none of these in the theaters,
okay.
which is interesting.
I saw some of this. So I saw Bridesmaids in the theater. I saw 40-Year-Old Virgin in the theater. Obviously, I did not see Police Academy. I was too young to see that in the theater, and I did not see Coming to America in the theater because I think that's part of this discussion, and that's where the Happy Gilmore thing comes in. Okay, so of those 5, I would have 40-Year-Old Virgin 5. I really like the movie. I think it's too long. My biggest complaint is I just talked about Naked Gun is 80 minutes. 40-Year-Old Virgin to me is like 2.5 hours, and I'm like, yo, this is I gotta take a break. Gotta hit pause, I'll come back. So that's number 5. That's
Yeah.
why. I would probably have Police Academy 4, although admittedly I haven't watched that in the longest. I'm
Yo,
just
when
saying, but
you
I haven't.
watch it,
You're
I'm
asking me.
telling
That's
you.
like you asked me top of my head. Like I haven't seen that. That's like
Yeah,
Naked
yeah.
Gun.
If you
I hadn't
watch it, you're
watched
gonna
Naked
like
Gun in
watch it.
decade. I didn't watch
Yeah.
Naked Gun in decades. So I probably have that 4. I would have Coming to America 3. I would have Bridesmaids 2 because I remember I had such a good time at the theater. See, in my head, I'm like, I went to a sold out show of that, and I just was dying. We were just everyone, the whole audience was dying. Like that's why I just in my head, that's what's stuck in my head is that experience. Even though I never get that back again,
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
such a good time and had so many moments where like people were just like crying, laughing in that one. Um, so actually, let me say, I'll put that number one. Not because you want Naked Gun in here. Okay, so I'll put that number one. I'm gonna put Coming to America 2. I'm gonna put Naked Gun 3. And then I'll put Police Academy 4 and Oriole Road 5. So I think the Naked Gun does make the list. The list you gave me. Like I said, you excluded things that I would have put ahead of this, right? So I do like Happy Gilmore. I love. So for example, for me, that would be high on this list of like I need to watch a scene.
Yeah.
Um, Hangover is also incredible. Like that would be a 1A for me. That was a great theatrical experience. That's one of the movies I laughed the hardest at the first time I saw it. Where do you put Ted on this list? I thought Ted was pretty funny the first time I saw it. First time I saw it. I haven't rewatched it, admittedly, but the first time I saw it, definitely some stuff that I thought was really funny. And then I am not so there's this whole era, the whole era of comedy of like the giant, you know what I mean? Like the giant party gone wrong. I didn't really get into I've seen a bunch of them, but what is it like Neighbors, the world must end or something like that, or This Is How It Ends. Like there's a whole bunch of those. Like a lot of people love those. I've seen them. They're probably not my favorite. Then there's also the Super Bad, like kind of that era of comedy. Also not my favorite, but I think a lot of people like that. So I'm just kind of like throwing out other ones in like through the years that have kind of captured people. I'm sure I'm missing some, but I'm saying those classes of comedies that we've seen. So of the ones you gave me, I would have the Naked Gun kind of in the middle of that. And like I said, there are scenes in this movie that if the movie's on TV are definitely going into like, hang on, I need 2 minutes. The thing with this movie is you don't need 10 minutes. Like you need like 2 because there's so many jokes. It's like if you have your favorite, like it's gonna come and it's gonna come quick.
Horrible Bosses?
I like that movie. Actually, a movie I like more that's sort of I like We're the Millers more than that was in that same era.
All right. So, what would you give it out of 5?
That's tough. Because it's like
For a comedy.
that's what I'm saying. Like the grading scale here is a little different because you're not looking for spectacle, right? You're looking for like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a
fun,
different genre. It's a
yeah,
different genre. That's why we have
execution. So
categories.
I'm gonna give it a 4 because I feel like I'm gonna
Okay.
feel like strength of update, well cast, the jokes, the hit rate on the jokes I found to be pretty high, and the 80 minutes. So I think this movie certainly more than justifies its existence. I think the question really becomes because I'm looking at the numbers and I'm sort of like, it's going to make money, but it's not going to be hangover money. And that's, it's kind of been the biggest modern comedy blockbuster we've had. I think that well, I heard this the other day. I do not count Barbie as a comedy. That to me is IP blockbuster that happens to have a lot of comedic elements. But I know people are like, "Well, that's the biggest grossing comedy of." I'm like, but the fascination with Barbie was less about the comedy and more about how do you make that IP live action, and then it kind of takes off alongside Oppenheimer. This movie's a comedy, right? That's what it's made for. I think the question is, should it have gone to theaters? Would they? And that's where I think the Happy Gilmore conversation comes in because this is a much better movie than Happy Gilmore. Make no mistake. If you're telling me like star rating on merit, I have Naked Gun as a 4. I'd have Happy Gilmore as like a 1.5 to 2. But there is something about the way Sandler wrote and structured Happy Gilmore 2 that got my attention because first off, he's not that funny in the movie and he's not supposed to be that funny in the movie. He's playing like a down on life, drunk former golfer who has to basically get back on tour to pay for something for his daughter for education. But the way he write that movie is it's made for modern social media, and I'm curious to see if that makes it more lasting than The Naked Gun. What I mean by that is there are so many cameos. You think there's cameos in Avengers movie? There are more cameos than actual parts in Happy Gilmore 2. But that movie is literally barely an actual film. It's more like these little vignettes that are meant to be put on YouTube and put on IG and put on TikTok and put on Reels. And it really feels like Sandler created this for that. And what I think is interesting is that's what Happy Gilmore 1 became, if you think about it. Happy Gilmore lives on in people's mind for like these little snippets. Price is wrong, Bob. Tap, tap, tap it in. Like there's these little bits of that movie that just keep coming up over and over again. And I think he created this sequel with that in mind. He's like, I'm just going to build a sequel entirely around the premise that you're going to take this movie and cut it into 30-second bits. And I want to give you as many of those as I can. And if I can grab your attention with, hey, look, there's actual golfers over here. Hey, look, there's A-list stars over here. Hey, look, I've got a bunch of YouTube influencers over here in this movie. That is actually more going to be more lasting than actually trying to make a thoughtful, updated movie, which is what The Naked Gun is. If this works, it's a bad sign because I think it means more people will do this. But pay attention to it because it's the first time I've seen someone really try to effectively almost cheat code their way into viral with a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I was never a fan of his movies that much. I didn't like his humor too much.
I think it depends on if you like his affect. I mean, I think in Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, and The Waterboy in particular, that stretch, it works for me. Those 3 movies I can rewatch all the time. As with all things, you keep doing the same thing over and over again and just changing your costume, it's gonna wear thin. So by the time we get to like Little Nicky and Mr. Deeds, I'm kind of like, I've seen this 100 times before. But those first couple times to me are classic. And I gotta say, may he rest in peace, Carl Weathers and Happy Gilmore is a huge differentiating factor. The reason why I like that one the best of the 3 is because of him. His character is, obviously they couldn't bring him back, but his character is unique. That is, we talk about Neeson doing comedy. There's Carl Weathers, right, taking his 80s action persona and translating it into this like weird golf mentor with one arm, but playing it kind of straight, but doing it in a way that's really humorous. Like, yeah.
You know, Carl Weathers,
So
man. I was watching Rocket 3 the other day, and when he shows up and his swag and his approach to
he's the
that
best part of
character
that
was
movie.
just
He's the best part of
yeah.
that movie
Oh yeah,
by far.
hell's yeah,
Rocky 3 doesn't work
hell's
if
yeah.
he's not the other like
Oh
if they do
no,
something else to train Rocky after Mickey's death, the movie doesn't work. It only works because Carl with yeah,
yeah.
because to me, like that movie, which I enjoy quite a bit, Clubber obviously carries the one side of the movie. Mr. T carries the one side of the movie. But I mean,
Oh,
the
yeah.
movie takes off when they go to LA to me. Because the beginning is like you got to knock Rocky down, and that's fine. Like that's the rise of Mr. T and the rise of Clubber. But you kind of know what's coming, and then the Mickey thing is almost like over the top, so tragic that you're just like, oh my god. But then they set foot in LA, and that's to me where it's like when Carl Weathers takes over the movie, and then it's just it's
What's the
yeah.
matter with you?
So
Oh
anyway,
man,
I think it's just really interesting time to see these 2 classic comedies updated and done in very different ways. And one is done with a lot of care and a lot of creativity, and I think it's very funny in The Naked Gun. I think the other is done with a lot of care, zero creativity, quite honestly, but maybe a lot of intelligence. And we'll see which one kind of wins out.
I'm gonna find a place for that clip. What's the matter with you?
We could do that. We could apply that elsewhere.
Oh yeah, definitely. Anything else, Brian?
No, other than I do think whether or not they make big bank or not on this Naked Gun, they were wise to put it where they put it because, between myself and the family, we have been going to the movies for 2 months straight, right? I mean, starting with Mission Impossible, I wanted to see Ballerina. How to Train Your Dragon, we went as a family. F1 went with the wife, couple, and with some friends, went a couple times. Superman went 3 times. Fantastic Four went twice. You know, and like
I might go a third time.
I might too, but then you get to that end and you sit in this theater and you're laughing for like 80 minutes and you walk out and you're like, that felt good, man. It was like a palate cleanser. It's like when you're at a fine restaurant and you're through the main course and they give you the palate cleanser before dessert. This is a perfect palate cleanser.
Yeah, yeah. And and I tell you, it was a business. The idea was fantastic. Let's just call it that. The idea, the premise, you pitching this to me, I'm like, yes, go ahead, do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And the time that they chose to put this out was just a good move as well. So they were hitting on all cylinders to make that bread.
So I hope this movie works well enough that it encourages other things of this nature, because I deliberately threw in a reference to Hot Shots, because if this movie works, tell me you can't make a good Hot Shots movie today with the action movies that have been come out. You like the whole point of Hot Shots was to riff on Top Gun and Rambo, right? 80s action. You telling me you can't take the superhero IP and the John Wick IP and do a
Oh
Hot Shots
yeah,
movie today? That'd be funny. Come on.
the content is there. It's just those type of minds to come up with
And a
something
studio to
that'll
say
work,
yes.
because that is a
The
difficult thing to
studio to
crack.
say, and I would say the studio that should say yes is a studio that actually made some of the actual movies. Like if I was Disney, you guys should make you guys should make a movie that pokes fun at your own movies. The closest they've gotten to that was Deadpool and Wolverine, right? They allowed Ryan Reynolds to kind of poke fun a little bit at the Marvel IP, but in sort of a more raunchy way. But like, you know, I mean, there's people probably who have no idea what I'm talking about with Hot Shots, but like that's the same style of like over the top, silly, it's physical, but it's played straight. And then like there's all these nods to other movies and of the time that you've seen. And like I will say Naked Gun does one scene like that. And it's perfect. If you've seen the other movie, you instantly get it. And then they Naked Gun it up and you're like, that's hilarious. Yeah, I won't spoil it for you. You'll know. You'll recognize it. See, you've seen the other movie, so you will catch onto it very quickly what they're doing. It's one of your favorite action movies of the last 15 years. They Naked Gun the scene up, and it's hilarious.
But yeah, let us know in the comment section below if you got a chance to check out Naked Gun. If you will, check it out after Brian's review of it, spoiler free. I don't know if we're gonna do a spoiler review of this, but
It's better we don't, because if people see it, go enjoy the jokes. I'd rather spoil an action scene than spoil a joke, because you get only one shot to watch that. Yeah, I will say I gotta do one ratings revision though. I was thinking about this. I was like, I don't want to change the Fantastic Four rating, because I think you and I really did like that and like it more than most people did. I'm gonna bump my F1 rating to 4.5, just because I do feel like now that we're at the end of the summer, that is the best all around made movie and entertaining experience I had all summer. So I don't really want that to be below Fantastic Four, and I don't want to bring Fantastic Four down. So I'm going to bring F1 up and say that was, now that we're basically through the summer, that was my number one movie experience, start to finish. So that's kind of, so I would have, so if you're following my rankings, you're saying like, how was your summer? I would say like F1 was 1. I would have Fantastic Four 2. I would actually have Naked Gun 3.
and
I
Superman
actually
4.
would, and then I would have in a tie for 4 Superman and How to Train Your Dragon, but for different reasons, very different reasons.
How to Train Your Dragon was good, man.
So that one's like, because
How
I
to
have a
Train Your Dragon
personal
was
affinity
good.
for that animated series, and my kid loves it, so there was a little bit of extra there. But yeah, that's my summer. Those are my 5, and then I would say biggest disappointment hands down was Mission Impossible. That's not even, that was the biggest letdown of the summer.
Imagine turning that one into like having the same.
That's what I'm saying. You have all this IP that's sitting out there that you could do this, and these individual actors, like look at the actors, John Wick, Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise. Like you can't make a spoof that's hilarious with these. RDJ, Iron Man. Like, you can't do it. Come on. It's sitting right there.
Immortality! Take it! It's yours!
Hopefully somebody give us a shot, Brian. We be making movies. or just be in the room pitching ideas. Go make it. Anyway, yes, hit that like and subscribe. Comment in the comment section below, and we'll see you next time on the Nerd Gen Report.